Dreaming of Li Bai, number 2. All day long, clouds float restlessly. Still my wanderer does not arrive. 3 nights in a row I've dreamed of you. I can see the kindly concern in your mind, but you always leave in a rush, saying ruefully, "Coming here wasn't easy. The wind blows wild waves on river and lake. I was afraid I'd lose my oars and capsize." You go out the door scratching your white hair as if disappointed in your life's dreams. The capital city is filled with officials. Why should this man be made so wretched? Who says the emperor spreads a wide net in his searching for men of talent? Li is getting old and still struggling to survive. Making a name to last 1,000 autumns is a pointless post-mortem affair. So here we have the second installment of Du Fu's poems on Dreaming of Li Bai. Like in the previous poem, the main topic is evidently what we said before. So parting and 2 scholar officials, 2 poets and friends, being far away and only being able to communicate through dreams. There is another important element here which wasn't present in the first one, or at least not so explicitly, which is the difficulties, the frustrations of reaching office, of reaching recognition, of reaching success. So let's paraphrase the poem. So in this poem, the poetic persona of Du Fu starts by lamenting that even though some things move like the clouds constantly, Li Bai is not moving fast enough or in the direction of Du Fu, except in dreams. And 3 nights he has dreamed of him. They've had a brief conversation at night, and the nocturnal Li Bai basically complains about how difficult it is to visit Du Fu in his dreams because of the distance. Yeah? And he is disappointed. Yeah? He clearly looks as a man disappointed because he has not been successful in his life's dreams. The last part of the poem, the last 6-7 lines, is a reflection by Du Fu that moves away from the dream and centers on the topic of being disappointed in life's dreams. So, like speaking aloud, Du Fu comments, so many people are successful at the capital. There are so many civil servants there. And so many worthy people are recognized. But why is this man alone not recognized? And he ends up in this slightly sad note, like saying, okay, so this man might be successful in making a name for himself after death, but that feels like a pointless thing, really. So this is a very interesting poem, and one of the things that I find interesting in it is that it feels a bit paradoxical, more than it being about Du Fu guessing what Li Bai is thinking. It feels more like Du Fu putting what he is thinking in Li Bai's words. So we talked before about the differences between Li Bai and Du Fu. Du Fu is a Mandarin. He is a Confucian scholar. And the great frustration in his life is not serving in office, not for any greedy or materialistic intentions, but because he wants to improve the country. He wants to do the social work that a Confucian scholar and civil servant does, improving the world for all the people. His frustration at not getting important posts and not being recognized is that sort of frustration. And for him, it would have been, we might imagine, a small consolation to know that after his death, he would be regarded the greatest Chinese poet of all time and read and reread and imitated to no end. But the situation will probably be different with Li Bai, at least partially different, because we know Li Bai was not too interested in serving in office. He was interested in having patronage, in the emperor having him by his side. Only very briefly we mentioned that Li Bai managed to get some imperial protection. He was in the Hanlin Academy for a few years, or even not a year, But generally, he was out of the capital and out of the circle of powerful proteges. So he was not able to perhaps lead a life of fame, glory, reputation, and wealth as he would have liked. But I'm sure his romantic nature would have found a lot of solace in knowing that in succeeding centuries his genius and his ability would be recognized, which, as I say, would be a great deal of consolation perhaps for Li Bai and relatively little consolation for Tu Fu. Stylistic aspects of interest in the poem. Some of the images continue the imagery of the previous poem. So the big distance between Li Bai and Du Fu, the big waters that separate them. Yeah? So the soul, the spirit of Li Bai, has to cross through wild waves of river and lake, and he's afraid that his boat might sink. But the most interesting part, as I say, is the second one, in which we hear the scholar's complaints. So both Li Bai and Du Fu deserve to be in positions of power, but they're not. No, they are in minor positions or out of power, so they're not appreciated. This again is, a very commonplace topic of all Chinese poetry, we could say, ancient Chinese poetry, as scholars lament, going back to at least, if not earlier, the Chizi, the elegies of the South, with the poet and courtier saying, I am the virtuous one, the whole world is tipsy-turvy, the wicked people, the sycophants, are in positions of power, whereas I, the virtuous one, am forced to live away from my lord. The emperor spreads a wide net, but it seems it's not wide enough to capture men of worth. And the image of the net is also interesting because the first poem also had net images, but with a completely different sense. In the first poem, Li Bai had been trapped in the nets of the law, but now he is not trapped in the wide net in which the emperor casts to capture those worthy, those intelligent, those who could serve in office for the profit of the nation. Interesting, its indifference at the end to recognition. So making a name to last 1,000 autumns is a pointless post-mortem affair. Does Du Fu really think this? I mean, all writing, whatever the Confucian values and the practice of Du Fu, all act of writing is consciously or unconsciously a bid for eternity. It's a way of initiating a dialogue, of maintaining a dialogue with people who haven't yet come, or with people who are here but far away from you. So it's a way of perpetuating your thoughts and your memory in time. Anyway, interesting poem. Tomorrow we will continue with a new one from a new author from Wang Wei.